Welcome back to The Hub. Today we're celebrating the life of legendary driver Tim Richmond, who died 25 years ago today. During his 8-year career, Richmond nabbed 13 victories, 7 of which came in his breakout year of 1986. But it's not the numbers that made this man. Flamboyant, freewheeling, daredevil, winner. All words describing Richmond's unbelievable talent behind the wheel.
What do you think about your reputation? Are you happy with it?
Well, sometimes...
Image?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Tim Richmond's reputation preceded him, that of an immensely skilled wheelman who lived life to its fullest.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, would you care to make a comment on that?
Maybe, no comment.
Richmond was the Hollywood hero who, along with anti-hero Dale Earnhardt, would bring NASCAR into a brand new era.
Down to the bottom of the racetrack, and you can see Richard nod as all of a sudden Richmond out of turn 2.
Tim Richmond began his NASCAR career in 1980 as a journeyman driver, enjoying some success early on.
Out of turn number 4, onto the main straightaway, Tim Richmond wins the Northwestern Bank 400.
Now, Hollywood Tim Richmond, this is a real change for you. What are you trying to prove?
I'm trying to prove that I was put on this earth to have fun.
But it wasn't until 1986 that Tim Richmond finally became Tim Richmond, thanks to a fresh-faced owner named Rick Hendrick and gruff veteran crew chief Harry Hyde.
Richmond across the finish line, the checkered flag to win.
Tim Richmond wins the Southern 500.
No one's going to touch Tim Richmond as he looks for the checkers for the 6th time this year.
7 wins in all, 3rd in points. Richmond was finally becoming the championship caliber driver everyone knew he could be.
Still side by side, Richmond takes first. The 1986 Winston Cup Stock Car Championship season is over. The man who is champion, Dale Earnhardt. Its most successful driver is Tim Richmond. This is the guy who won more races this year than anybody else.
You were detained, or I guess were sick the morning of the original qualifying.
Yeah, I, unfortunately had a problem on the way to the racetrack, and I had to run back to the hotel, and by the time I got back, we didn't get any laps in practice, and I don't think that thing really needs to be brought up anyway, right?
Unfortunately, he would never get another opportunity to battle for the championship, as health issues robbed him of that chance the very next year.
I want to come back and finish first and feel what it's like. Earnhardt's in a real good mood this week, and it must be due to that.
Tim Richmond would run only 8 races in 1987, winning 2 of them, the last 2 of his career.
In 1987, here comes Tim Richmond. He's a winner again. Amazing story.
Tim Richmond is remembered as one of NASCAR's 50 greatest drivers. You see the numbers here, including 13 wins, 7 alone in 1986. Car owner Rick Hendrick says Tim was one of the greatest drivers in the sport's history who never fully got a chance to show his skill. Phil Parsons and Jeff Hammond joining us now. Jeff, crew chiefed against Tim. You call him a fellow competitor, but also a friend.
He was, and he was so much fun off the racetrack. But when he got strapped in that car, whenever it was, at the beginning of his career to the very end of his career, he was all business. You could see that he was having fun on the racetrack, but he was going fast doing it. He was extremely fierce as a competitor.
He definitely was that, for sure.
He always pushed it to the limits. Movie star good looks and a mouth to match, Jeff.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, his talent cannot be denied. I mean, that guy could do some things with a race car that, when they talk about the rivalry between he and Dale Earnhardt, they were similar in so many different ways. But at the same time, I mean, I had an opportunity to bump heads with him on numerous occasions. And the thing was, he was not afraid of running over you. He was not afraid of tearing up a race car. And I think that's the one thing that kind of held him back in the early part of his career, is they talk about his 13 wins and his breakout year in 1986. But he also had a habit of tearing up race cars, and that was something that kind of frustrated me as a crew chief, because we probably locked horns with him as many times as Dale Earnhardt did. And again, his talent sometimes would bring out our frustration.
But he got it figured out in 1986.
He did, Phil.
He finished third in points, you know.
But you know what happened right there? He got with a great organization. Rick Hendrick, putting him together with Harry Hyde was what he needed. He needed somebody to kind of like ground him. He was basically an unguided missile or a lightning, he was a lightning striking all over the place. He needed a grounding rod.
To Phil's point, it was go or blow. From 1980 to 1985, he did record 55 DNFs. So to your point,
yes.
it was win or go home.
But he figured it out. It took him a while.
He figured it out. He's a little bit like you. You figured it out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If there's one article you read online today, I urge you right now to go to foxsports.com's NASCAR page and read the article titled 25 Years Later, What Could Have Been, written by Tom Jensen. A great story looking back at the budding rivalry Jeff just spoke about between Richmond and Dale Earnhardt Sr. and the mark Tim left on our sport. Next, after the 1986 season, Tim Richmond battled health issues and had to step out of the race car. In an unearthed interview with Ken Squire, we hear from Tim firsthand on his career life and future. You may be surprised at what he has to say.
Welcome back to a Wednesday edition of NASCAR Race Hub. We showed you the career of Tim Richmond on track. Off track, Tim was just as flamboyant and carefree, earning him the nickname Hollywood. In a never-before-seen or heard interview with Ken Squire, we hear a man during his illness who's uncertain of his future, career, and life. Here's At a Crossroads, the lost Tim Richmond interview. Okay, all right. Speed.
It's difficult to measure the impact Tim Richmond had on NASCAR in his all-too-brief career. In the 25 years since his passing, his legend has grown, as well as his mystery. After a 3-week bout with pneumonia in the winter of 1986, Tim's health was suddenly in the headlines. Soon it was announced he would miss the Daytona 500 after a hugely successful 1986 season. In January of 1987, Ken Squire traveled to Ashland, Ohio to check on Tim's condition and to try to uncover what the future might hold. In this recently unearthed interview, Tim spoke at length about his past, but still left many questions unanswered.
It's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
I mean, I can get snazzed, but
come
I didn't
on.
want to.
There's a lot of mystery about all of this, Tim. From cancer to flu to AIDS to booze to all. What is the start of this? What got you to this state where you got so sick?
Me. I just didn't let myself, I just wouldn't let myself think that I was sick. What happened was I came into a situation that I had such a great year, and a lot of things were coming my way because of it. I was out there taking advantage of it. I just pushed myself too hard, from what the doctor said. They could have probably cleared this thing up a lot sooner than they were able to, had I laid down for them. But I didn't lay down for them. I was forced to lay down, and then I had no control over it, so I ain't gonna do that again.
Not drugs, not booze, just flu and standing up.
I heard that. I heard I was in Texas in some drug rehab center down there. And I've seen things like this happen on TV with people that probably warranted it. I still don't think this is a warranted. I'm just a racer having a good time.
This didn't scare you? I mean, there wasn't a time when they came in and you said, ooh-wee, that's about as close as I want to get.
Well, it did. Well, I can't say it scared me. I fought it, It was one of them things like, this thing is not going to whip me. I'm not going to let these people say, little case of pneumonia beat him. I'm just more scared of the reputation and the fact of what everybody thought of me. When I played football in military school down in Miami, I ran like a scared rabbit. That if they caught me and they tackled me, that would make me look bad. And that would give the people an opportunity to laugh at me. That's something that I've never been able to deal with. If somebody tries to back me in a corner and make me look like a fool, unfortunately, I've jumped out of the corner in the wrong manner and done some things I regret.
That's not enough. That's not enough. We want to win more.
The reason that I drive like I drive and race like I race might not be as macho as people would like to hear or see, and that's because I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose to give the people a chance to laugh at me, and that's why I drive so hard in everything I do.
3 weeks in an oxygen tent, I think, would scare me to death. Have you got a different perspective after going through an ordeal like this?
I mean, it was bad enough to where I was, you know, I was ready for it to turn the switch off, because it was that bad. If racing quit tomorrow, I've succeeded more than I anticipated I would. Not more than I wanted to, but more than maybe I thought I would. And I've given the people the opportunity to look over there and say, I told you so, to them people that didn't believe at first. And I would be okay. Not that I want it to, but I'm just thankful to have had what I've had up to this point. But I want more. I gotta have more.
We don't know with certainty if Tim knew the gravity of his illness on that day, and the fact that he passed away 2.5 years later only leaves more questions unanswered.
That interview was done in 1987. As we all know, that was a totally different time. But for those of you in the Sprint Cup garage, Phil, what was your thought process?
Well, I think most of the popular consensus was that he had a drug problem. I mean, that's what everyone, I think that's what everyone thought. Obviously, later on, it came out that he died from the AIDS virus, and I don't think anybody ever thought that. But I just think with his hard partying lifestyle, I think that's what most people felt like. Well, obviously, the drugs got the best of him, because I don't think any of us thought that pneumonia was what really kept him out of the race car for 6 months.
I was talking to the two of you earlier, and Jeff, I made the comment or asked the question, was Tim Richmond a guy that was 20 years ahead of his time? Your response was no.
No.
He was a throwback.
He really was. I mean, when you think about guys like Curtis Turner, for example, I mean, and the lifestyle that Phil has touched on, when you win, you party. And a lot of these guys back in the old days, I mean, they'd party for a couple of days. And this is what Tim was doing. I mean, he was coming out, running hard, racing hard. I mean, just having a great time. But bottom line here, he burned the candle at both ends, and it caught up with him.
Guys, my wife and I went to Hollywood. We were there for the Riverside race. Yep. And we went to lunch at the Beverly Hills Lounge with some friends of ours, right, at the Polo Lounge. And we're having lunch, and we hear over the PA, you know, Tim Richmond, please, you have a phone call or whatever. And we said, well, could it be our Tim Richmond? Mm-hmm. Maybe, possibly, because we were in LA around the race at Riverside. So we get ready to leave, and we walk around the corner as we're on our way out, and we see Tim, and he just burst out laughing. He said, did you hear me get paged? We said, yeah. He said, I did it myself. I just want to hear myself be paged.
Well, he was a character, and fitting that he was in Hollywood because Cole Trickle,
very flamboyant,
the character in Days of Thunder, was modeled after Tim Richmond. Guys, thanks for being here. We'll see you this weekend on Trucks, Phil, and we'll see you later in the show, all right?
See it.
All right.